that 3 pounds. Out of the top of the shine, right? Don't have internet.
Memory, it says internet not connected. How would that happen?
It's here.
You got it?
Yep. It's a fancy Mac. I wouldn't know what to do.
What do we ask? Who's your last name?
I can play with it, Mayor. Will you, if you want to?
You want the old-fashioned way?
How's your computer?
Mine's right on.
It's connected.
Yep.
Craig and mine's computer's
I
not
will,
working.
I will not acknowledge that.
Craig, are you gonna keep your flyer? Can I have it?
You can have it.
I'll put it up at the apartments where I live.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. Welcome to the February 8th City Council meeting, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome, and before I forget it, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. It's a week away, and Brian, all the Valentine kid. Let's open with public comments. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council about any issue that they'd like to visit about. Again, it's not a dialogue. And if there's anything that requires it, we'll get back to you.
Great.
Morning. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. My name is Mike Wynant, and I live at 707 East 12th Street here in Wabasha. And this evening I'm here to promote the Grumpy Plunge as well as the Grumpy Old Men Festival. The 10th annual Grumpy Plunge is coming up. It's Saturday, February 24th. And it's here in Wabasha at Slippery's Bar and Grill. The Grumpy Plunge is a fundraiser for both Rotary as well as Great River Home. And Rotary is an organization that supports the hospital, the ambulance, fire department, the schools, a wide variety of nonprofits and organizations in our community. Great River Homes is an organization that provides residential services to people with disabilities throughout Wabasha County. Both Rotary and Great River Homes are nonprofits. So all the money that is raised is kept local. Last year we had 56 plungers and we raised about $13,000. And over the course of our 9 years of having the Grumpy Plunge, we've averaged 70 plungers and we've raised $117,000. So it's been a great success. It is a very unique event in that it's in the river, Mississippi River. And whereas most plunges are in a lake, and so it's very special. It's also part of the Grumpy Old Men Festival. A lot of plunges are an event in and of itself, whereas we are part of a festival. And the festival begins Friday evening at 6 o'clock. They're playing the Grumpy Old Men movie at the library. And throughout the day on Saturday, there's a lot of events in town. And those events include an ice fishing contest, stretch raffles, hot dish luncheon, bingo, minnow races. That's a big hit. Cribbage tournament, poker tournament, and then the plunges at 3 o'clock. And then in the evening, there's a lot of entertainment at Slippery's, Pioneer Club, Silver Star Saloon, as well as a VFW. So, for some people, it's been kind of a long winter, and I think we're all looking forward to celebrating getting past the halfway point and we're starting to think spring about February 24th. We do give out special awards for costumes, for the plunger who traveled the furthest, as well as the plunger who raised the most money. And it is just a lot of fun. I would encourage you, and I should don my hat, I would encourage you to pledge or plunge. That's our motto. And come on down, watch the event. It takes about a half hour. It starts at 3 and about 3:30 we're finished. And we have wonderful sponsors, and we really appreciate the help of the city, the police presence, as well as the ambulance. And we've never had an incident, but they are there just in case. We also have dive team members that are in the water. And, I'm expecting a tropical heat wave. I think it's going to be warm that day. The water will be very inviting. We happen to have 10 people sitting around the tables, and it's our 10th anniversary. So wouldn't that be great if we had the 10 of you plunge?
I'll nominate all them.
So thank you very much.
Mike, thank you, and I know you worked very hard at this, and if I remember last year you had to make an adoption, didn't you?
Yes.
A bit, and it still worked out, didn't it?
It worked out great.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Couldn't jump off the bridge, but had to walk into the water.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, council members, any changes or additions to the agenda this evening? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that passed unanimously. Mayor's comments. It was a month of participation in various meetings for me this last month. As you know, the city has a development agreement with the National Legal Center, and on January 19th, a committee composed of Wabasha citizens, National Legal Center representatives, and city officials attended the first planning or brainstorming workshop discussing the possibilities of open space usage, each to make a list of possibilities to bring to our next meeting. On that same afternoon, I attended the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce 2018 State Legislative Review with Rolf Thompson. Several state legislators were on a panel discussing current issues, 2017 performance, and a preview of 2018. I compliment Rolf for being engaged as several legislators came up and declared, hey, Wabasha is here, and that has to benefit us when we're asking for our Congress help. On January 23rd, I invited leaders from the Wabasha Port Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, the Main Street Initiative, and the National Legal Center to meet at the library to discuss how we could together accomplish more than each of the groups working individually. We'll continue to meet. The main conclusion of the first meeting is that the four groups need to set some common goals, and that's being worked on now. On Friday and Saturday, the 26th and 27th of January, I attended the League of Minnesota City Leadership Conference for experienced officials. The main topics this year included proactive media relations, getting your message across, creating more collaborative consuls, and supporting effective consul staff relationships. I've attended several LMC meetings and workshops over the 7 years, John, and have not been disappointed in any of them. It's always an opportunity to meet and network with elected officials of other communities and to hear professional presentations outlining issues in municipal government. And then on January 31st, I attended a meeting in Stewartville that was primarily elected officials and staff of southeast Minnesota communities. A major emphasis at this meeting was enhancing ethical leadership for the southeast Minnesota League of Communities. And on January 27th, we were invited to the Wabasha Firemen's Annual Dinner and Firemen's Award Dinner. Jeff was there, Brian was there, Steve was there, I was there. Am I missed anybody? Okay. Fire Chief Darren Shealy emceed a fun evening, and City Staff Person Dylan Hardert earned the 2017 Wabasha Fireman of the Year. So congratulations to Dylan, and a nice job done by Darren Shealy. Any questions? John, let's start with you on committee review.
The Wabasha Port Authority did not meet in January. Chad, were you gonna speak a little bit about the Senate Finance Committee coming down or anything? Okay, I'll leave that all to you then. And we'll go from there. That's all I got, Ron.
That was quick. Jeff, anything to add to that?
Quiet on the western front,
Can't you make something up once? No?
not tonight.
Brian?
I do. Steve and I'm going to take over utilities, informing the board what's going on. Because we had two meetings. The first one, I was elected president, so Steve is done. So I'll do the updates from now on. It was peaceful. Anyway, two meetings between our two city council meetings. January 9th was our first one. We did officer election, which I got president. That's the only officer we have. Business as usual. There's a couple things I just want to point out. Chad had talked about water freezing in the ground last city council meeting, water lines freezing to homes or anywhere else business is. We had some problems at one of our offices on Jefferson Avenue, and we've been monitoring the temperature, and it's been staying around 50 degrees. 38 degrees is the warning point where you want to start running your water. So just what I've experienced, we're doing okay. It's different in all sorts of places. Tony could probably elaborate on that. He knows where some water's being run in the city right now. So we discussed that. The main topic at that meeting, we discussed an increase for fees for water services. And we pretty much just discussed it at that meeting, and Chad and staff put something together, which we came back to at our February 6th meeting, where we approved a plan to forward to City Council, which is in our consent agenda tonight, which is a $1 base rate increase and 5% usage increase. All the details of that were in your packet in the warrants. And a lot of what's fueled that is another thing. When Pat gave his report, we had 4 water main breaks in just 1 month alone. Our city engineer always says we boast that we're one of the only cities in Minnesota that can brag that we have a water main. So those problems are going to probably continue to happen. So that's kind of part of the reason that we took that action. That, and then one other thing in the warrants that we're going to be voting on is Reed's Landing taking over the invoicing for their, is it sewer and water, Chad?
Yes.
Okay. And in the past, SEMCRA had done that for them. And so we, in our warrants, we're amending our service agreement so that the city now manages the invoicing and the bills. So that's all I have.
Well, thank you, and good luck as you lead the utility team forward.
Okay.
Steve, thank you for your service.
I might want to mention that as far as Reed's Landing is concerned, they're on private wells, so we just manage their sewer as far as, it's not sewer and water, it's just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and their wells are metered though. To
They're
come up
metered,
with the
so we know
sewer
what to
bill.
charge.
Yep,
And basically, what we're doing is the billing, is that correct?
simply. Yep.
And
We're not doing the meter reading or nothing, we're just doing the
we're
billing.
not collecting the money?
Nope.
That's still going over to the county.
County, yes.
Steve, anything else on utilities?
I think Brian about summed it up.
And we are getting paid to do that, by the way,
Yes.
with Reed's Landing.
Yeah, we are getting paid to do that.
And there may be another main break yet that hasn't surfaced, but it's been a brutal winter as far as, because of the depth of the frost, these kind of things happen. It's putting pressure on these mains.
And lack of snow?
Well, it's not so much lack of snow because most of the mains are right in the street anyway. There's not gonna be snow there anyway.
Okay.
So that really has no bearing on it. But when you get 4 feet of frost like we've got this year, it just seems to put pressure on it. Not to say that these mains can break on the 4th of July too, and they
Sure.
have. But this winter's been brutal as far as that's concerned.
Well, again, thanks for leading the utility department a couple of years, 3 years?
Oh, it's been more than that. 5 years?
That's just since I've been here.
You know, it's probably
time,
close to 7,
Yeah.
because it was really early. Right. Okay, Craig?
The planning commission met on the 9th of January. We elected some new officers, so Tim Walrick is now the chair and Jim Miller is the vice chair. And then the Board of Adjustment, we elected officers there. Scott Durand is the chair and Sharon Burke is the vice chair. We had a public hearing on the solar garden that's going in by the Eagles Basin housing development. It's going just across the line on the Stegeman, Larry Stegeman property. And it's about an 11-acre solar garden, which is a little bit smaller than the one that's out there now by the Justice Center. So it's gonna have about 10,000 panels on it, and it'll be about 1 megawatt. It's being operated by the community, what's their name now? The Community Solar Company. Something like that, if I can remember it.
Chad, is that a different company
Community
than?
Energy
It's a different
Solar.
company,
It's a
yep.
different
Okay.
company, Community Energy Solar. So they're planning to offer discounts to local people when they get up and running. The city council or the planning commission worked on getting a better screening for that piece of property. So we're gonna have 2 lines of trees out there that'll be able to screen that facility, and it's gonna be right along 21st Street and the projected Majestic Street, which won't be projected very far, just enough feet to get a driveway in there. So that's what's going on down there. There was some objections. We had a public hearing. There was some objections by Joe Wheeler from the Housing Authority. And he had some concerns, which you can ask him about. But the commission decided to go ahead and grant the permit for that. It's no use permit.
Sure.
So our next meeting, we also talked about zoning ordinance, which we're still rewriting. And our next meeting is this coming Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And we'll be discussing at that, there are no hearings, but we'll just be discussing the further modifications of the zoning ordinance. And that should be wrapping up sometime in the next couple of months.
Good. Any questions for Craig? Dean, anything to share with us tonight?
Nothing, waiting for spring.
Okay. In the spring, you're ready, huh? All right, Mr. Chad, how about an administrator's report?
Okay, I got a few things here. We recently submitted a FEMA grant for $140,000 for air packs and then filling station for those air packs through the fire department. I will be submitting a sign request on behalf of Main Street for some historic signs pointing to our historic downtown. At the same time, I'm going to submit a letter to re-request some placement of some barriers at the base of the bridge. We had the car go through the fence here recently, and they put up some roadblocks last time, but I'm gonna make that request again to do that. So our audit this year is wrapping up. It was very smooth. We had a few questions. We've given them answers. We're not looking at any more findings than the past, and we might actually go down in the findings that we have. Those are findings that are basically due to not having the level of staff that other businesses would have to do things. So Mr. Andy Berg will be coming to our April meeting like he has in the past to give us a review of the council. So if I meant to let you know that. So Tony and I are actually right now reviewing a grant for boating infrastructure. It's one that's, I think, new. So we're looking at maybe some, and it's around the whole boating and boat launch and that idea. So we're looking perhaps at Ike's Park and redoing the bathrooms, as well as perhaps some dredging in the area down there. In the packet, you'll see an item talking about Kellogg and the possibility of contracting some work, them contracting with us to do some work down there. Tony, myself, and the mayor have been a part of a few conversations, very, very basic at this point. We didn't want to go any farther until we have the discussion here today on that. So I've had one discussion with the Parkside owners of the Parkside Marina about the lease that's coming up, and John, Jeff, and myself will we can touch base after the meeting on that and set forth going forward. I think we want to look at meeting next week again on that. So I was going to congratulate Mr. Hardert also on the Fireman of the Year, and also we just received word this evening that well, we knew they were coming, but we got the date and time down, that the Minnesota State Senate Capital Investment Committee will be visiting Wabasha, just like the House Committee did here a couple months ago. The State Senate Capital Investment Committee visited 2 years ago, but review the bonding submission, the $10 million bonding submission that we have for the Eagle Center. We've got a program plan for them. The mayor will be a part of that. John will most likely be a part of it. I may be a part of it if I'm back from another meeting with the Corps next Tuesday. Craig and I will be attending that meeting. So, council, you're invited. It's 3 p.m. next Tuesday at the National Eagle Center. The session will be about 40 minutes, and we will go from there. At the same time, we have cards that we put out right there. John's got one. If you'd all grab one. But it is for the day at the Capitol that we have with, we'll be taking Eagle up there, and we've got 2 buses that we've had some gracious sponsors. John, do you got the particulars on that, time and all that?
Yeah.
And this for the whole,
This is for the whole community. And
Anybody.
The whole community is please invited. We've got classes from both from Wabasha Kellogg School as well as St. Felix are going to be coming along. It's a big deal. So these 2 buses will be leaving from the Eagle Center at about 10:30. Between 1:30 and 3:30, we'll be in the rotunda at the Capitol, which has been all redone, and it's stunning up there. We have a tour of the renovation as well. There'll be a rally the later part of that between 1:30 and 2:30 or 3:30, excuse me, and we'll be back in town by 5 o'clock.
And that is on
March 7th.
March 7th.
It's a Wednesday.
So
it's a big deal. It's
just another it's another impact, isn't it?
It really, really is. And for us as a community to be up there to support our request in the rotunda like that in the middle of the business week is a big thing. And it's a great opportunity for our community. So.
And that bus ride's free.
Yep. Might even be lunch.
And lunch is free.
Yeah, lunch.
Yeah. To the writers.
Free lunch.
Good. Any questions on that? I hope we can all make that one. Tony, I apologize.
Podium. Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Park Board did not meet. We did not have a quorum. We have a new member, which will be approved tonight. Ivan Nelson, or otherwise known as Mickey, will be getting back on, so that'll fill up the Park Board, which will help. And we'll have a meeting coming up here after next, I believe. Streets met. We talked about the LED lighting conversion, which is on the agenda tonight. Pretty straightforward there. I gave him a quick brief on Kellogg, really not knowing anything at this point, but I just filled him in on what we're...
Can I ask, what's the cost on that lighting upgrade?
Oh, it's, yeah. So when they give us a cost, it's kind of a total project cost. It's more like an estimate, because I got to price out buying bulbs, and then I have to get bids from contractors to do the electrical. So basically what they do is unhook the ballast and just straight wire it, because we don't need any of that with LED lights.
Is it gonna be the white light, like our on Pembroke?
Yeah, yep, identical. And so yeah, that'll come up later. But yeah, it's kind of it's a guesstimate.
What is it?
Oh, it's 5,300. It's in there for tonight. We're going to talk about it on the council agenda. 5,300, and then what Excel is going to reimburse us is 2,300, and then we'll recoup the other cost in
Lower energy costs.
yeah, less than a year. So that's a good deal. And we had a 10-minute parking request in front of the new license bureau where they moved. So what the street commission voted to do was remove the one that was in front of Edwards Jones, which wasn't very popular, and move that across the street by the license bureau. So that should help be the first spot right in front of that building. So that's it. I know Brian, you had mentioned about the water. The guys repaired 4 different leaks. Saved us some money versus hiring it out. We kind of did that in between the snows. Getting an inch of snow. It's just it's here, but yeah, they did a good job, and we'll get those patched up this summer with new blacktop. So hopefully, knock on wood, we don't have any more. But that is all I have.
Tony, we didn't get the seal coating done this fall, did we?
Nope.
Will
Nope.
we get that for the same price next year then?
Crack filling.
Or correct?
Yep. Yep. Right away, first on the list, same price.
That was what, 20,000?
No, it was 5. Somewhere's around 5.
Oh, was it 5? Okay.
Yep.
You're thinking seal coat was higher. That was typically the higher
Yeah.
one.
And we haven't chip sealed because we've been doing mill and overlays. So now we get the crack filling done, then we can look at chip sealing the new streets, probably the 2019, somewhere's in there. So,
One thing I forgot to mention is we still have several openings on boards and commissions. So throw your name out there, anybody in the public that's interested in filling one of those. But we will be, the mayor's going to work with the department heads and myself, and we're going to kind of have a brainstorming session and put together names of people we know in the community, and then we'll break out from there and go do some recruiting.
Do they still have to be residents of Wabasha, or can they be temporary?
city.
All have to be city residents with the exception of the Port Authority, which allows for 2 positions to be outside of the city.
And the city is running water too, like Brian said, I believe down at the Blue Tube on Lawrence Boulevard. And the other spot is up on the end of Skyline Drive back in there. It's a kind of a private, but it's a really shallow line, and it's the end of the line. So that's what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, whether it's still going on, you know. I wouldn't know today, but we were running water, so.
Still are.
Are they? Good.
Any other questions for Tony? Thank you, sir. At the mayor's meetings or the League of Minnesota City meetings, when I visit with other mayors or city administrators, generally 2 things come up. The length of meetings, and right now the length is generally somewhere around an hour. Many councils get their business done in an hour. And I think we're able to do that because if you look at our consent agenda, we have 12 items on the consent agenda this evening. And one of the early training sessions I went to, I was encouraged to move as much as possible into the consent agenda. So I want to compliment our staff team on following that. So tonight's consent agenda, 12 items, approve the minutes of December 29th, January 2nd, and January 11th. HPC Park Board appointments, I would like to thank Kelly Linton for serving on the Historic Preservation Commission for 3 years, I believe, and Matt Kranz for serving on the Park Board. And these folks will be replaced by Jim Noel, who agreed to work with the HPC, and Mickey Nelson wanted to get back on the Parks and Rec. Okay, also included are the 2018-19 fire contracts, the RJAC temporary on-sale liquor, the National Eagle Center temporary on-sale liquor for the Taste of Wabasha, St. Felix, Minnesota lawful gambling application for a raffle, and our Minnesota lawful gambling application for excluded bingo for Wabasha County Fair. The first reading tonight has included the proposed amendment to City Code 500 to raise water rates, and these rates are clearly explained in the packet and online. School resource officer contract, there have been some minor modifications on both parties. The Reeves Landing sewer maintenance agreement amendments we've talked about, the ambulance mutual aid agreement with Winona Area Ambulance, and finally the warrants. A motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor?
One quick question on the water increase. Have you guys done any calculations just to show what the average citizen's increase is gonna be?
Yes.
Just so we get it out there?
Yep.
I can bring that up here.
Also with that, there is a public hearing when, next,
March 6th,
March 6th.
next meeting,
for that.
yep. I'll bring it up here on the screen and I'll verbally.
You know, as long as we're going to discuss that, I'm going to pull that number, and then we'll come back to it, Jeff.
You want to do it that way? Otherwise, I could rattle.
Well, I think that's what the first line on our agenda says. Any discussion, we're supposed to pull them,
Okay.
Chad. So I just soon follow what we have there. Thank you. Okay. To approve the consent agenda with the exception of the water rates, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Passed unanimously. There is no public hearing tonight. We'll get into general business. The second reading of the land use plan amendment. Chad, do you want to summarize that?
That is for this property out here. We had the planning commission held a public hearing on that. There was a few questions, comments on it, but basically it's amending the land use plan to allow it to be a park.
It's gone through the park department, it's gone through
Planning commission.
planning, so now it's up to us. Motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Jeff, second. Discussion?
Yeah, I have one question. I see in the letter here from the planning and zoning, discussion about the water issues over there. It's been looked at and once it's developed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Craig.
The water issues are the piece of property that lies between the dental clinic and the property next to it. I forget. And that's been a water problem since since we took out the ditches and put in the curb and gutter back in 1990, I think it was. And so what we think is gonna happen, most likely, is when that land gets developed, we'll find a way for that water to get out of there right now.
That has been one of the biggest
I know it's been a problem, and
turnaways from anybody developing that property. Also.
You okay with that, Dean?
yeah, I just noticed that they had brought that concern. I always say that we're gonna get back to them, so I just
Sure.
wanna make sure that's,
Thanks for bringing that up. Any other discussion? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. I hope our next topic, folks, everybody will share what your thoughts, ask the questions, and that we have a rich and fruitful discussion. But this has to do with contracting public works with the city of Kellogg. And Tony, we'd want you in this discussion also. But Chad, you've been kind of the quarterback on this. What's going
I'd say
on?
jointly with Tony, we have, so this reared its head about 2 years ago also, in 2016. Kellogg started some conversations with us about us taking over what we'll call the public works work. So now it's come up again. They've had a resignation of their public works worker, and also their utility person is resigning as well, retiring, I believe. So we've had some very, very high-level discussions about, they've asked us to put something together. We had a couple high-level discussions with them, but we weren't going to put anything together until we had this discussion here. Anything that we do, we've kind of agreed on this, is, the city will gain from this as well, the city of Wabasha. Not just Kellogg. We won't lose money on anything we do here with this contract by any means. And if anything, we should gain efficiencies on our end by doing it as well. Equipment is still up for discussion, what equipment would be used, all those types of things. So Tony, anything? We'll also take a look at the utilities at the same time and look at, they have a Class D plant that they use, and we'll be looking at providing that service as well. So, go ahead, Tony.
Roland, you brought up a good question the other day about, remember the pie that we were talking about? How are we going to chunk out one of our guys to go down there and still get our stuff done? And the thing that would have to happen is we would have to hire another person, obviously, because we're not. There's no way I got, time or workload like that where I can send somebody down there. So we would have to hire another person, and they would, be under our department, and we would rotate them. This is kind of an experimental thing, probably the first year, but so we have to cover their water and sewer. So our utility department would probably have to do the inspections down there, the paperwork, and cover that part, and then we would have our guy go down there, either run their equipment, snow removal, and then in the winter down there's not a lot of things to do during the day if there's not snow removal. So then we would recoup that extra person back at our shop for help, working on all of our stuff. So there's a lot of different options out there, but we didn't want to dive into it too much until we ran it by you guys and see if there's interest in it, or if you want us to stay out of that business, or whatever you're thinking. So they're our next door neighbor. They're probably going to run into a pinch here fairly quick. Chad and I don't want to rush this by any means. Want to make sure we got everything figured out that we can, but they want to start meeting next week, and they have formed a group to 4 or 5 people to work on this, and they're going to come up with a list of exactly what their expectations are, and then we would come up with a list of what they would gain from us instead of just getting their basics done. You know, we could go down there with 3 guys in the summertime and spend 2 days and trim the whole city, trees. We got the vac machine, we can do jetting and vacuuming if it fits in the cost. So there's a lot of things to figure out. So I don't know what everybody's thinking, and
Would this also include like mowing and stuff?
yeah, and Chad and I had some discussion on that. Are we going to have one of our full-time guys down there mowing, or are we going to have a part-timer go down and mow? So that's another there. So we just don't want to put how many hours of going through this and figuring it out if it's going to be a big no-no. But
What are they spending right now on?
We haven't got into that yet.
Okay.
We've got one budget from them, but we need a couple others to put it all together. What's that?
I say look into it and see, what they need and what we can provide and how they're gonna pay for it, what we're gonna charge, and, I mean, one way or another, they have to get their stuff done down there in Kellogg, and,
The mayor and Tony and I have all talked about duration, and we're no shorter than 3 to 5 years to start. If we
Well, it's kind of like when we started putting a resource officer out at the school. We didn't know what they needed for the first 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And, whether it was gonna work out or not, so.
Craig, what are your thoughts? Excuse me.
I say start off and start talking, start looking, and, I don't know, bring it back to us.
Well, I'm wondering, how did they get along? They got this far by themselves. Did something change down there that they can't continue the same way?
They continue to have turnover that they struggle with every time, and I think some of them want to get something more long-term, because it feels like I think it's been 2 years for the last couple, and they get them trained and they're gone.
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for a town of 450 people to have a full-time person that has a license for a Class D license for water and sewer, and CDL, right in that battle of trying to come up with a wage to keep somebody there that's knowledgeable and that can do the job. So we got a bigger tax base, so it's all different for us. But I think that's kind of what they're having trouble with. So
when we take it over, I mean, it isn't gonna get any cheaper.
then they know that. We told them our pay scale, starts out at $19.89 an hour, I believe. And then if you add a water and sewer license on that, then you move up a little bit. There's incentive to get that. And they were paying 15.
Something.
Yeah, and that's not workable.
There's also a lot of things, with what we have, where Tony and Dylan and even some of our techs, have the experience in, where they don't have that down there. Simply looking at a crack in a street, guys can say that needs crack filling or that needs, where Kellogg then has to go back to an engineer, so to speak. So we bring a lot of that expertise also, and we would be compensated for that. Absolutely.
Do we currently, work with them right now, like street sweeping and stuff?
They've asked for pricing on street sweeping. We've swept a couple times for them. That was years ago, but they hire somebody for sweeping. When you go by our FEMA schedule for pricing, I mean, it's cheaper for them to hire somebody else versus us charging $185 an hour for sweeper. So, I mean, and we talked about other equipment of ours that would be used down there. Are we going to have a separate charge for that, above and beyond the basic needs? That was part of it too. And Chad and I we just got to make sure that we don't overwhelm ourselves, or me with, because it's a whole nother town, and I don't want to be down there half the.
What were you thinking, Steve?
I'm thinking that when we determine a price to take care of that city for them, they're gonna be shocked. They're gonna have sticker shock. I think they've been getting by on the cheap, and not only that, but do we really want that headache? Just to determine, where did this guy work today? Did he work in Wabasha? Did he work in Kellogg? I just think it's a problem we don't need.
Okay.
I have some concerns like that as well, but mine go more toward, so what happens in a big old windstorm? Well, we have a priority here, but there's gonna be a priority there then. Our equipment goes down there, so yeah, it's 480 residents. I mean, how many square blocks is that town? That much more miles, that much more hours on our equipment. We've got an old community, and water mains break all the time in our town.
Yeah.
It's
That's why I say that could all be brought up in the discussion, and Tony can give us his feelings on that. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously, if we get a windstorm, we're gonna have our stuff done first,
See, and that's a hard pill to swallow for them, because they're,
Yeah.
And those would be, it's, performing per the contract, and what's the perception of the performance?
Yeah.
So.
I think they'd be better off if they had the local person or somebody that lived there in town or they knew
Lined up to,
lined up, and they take the bullet and they're gonna have to pay for that. Well, they're gonna have to pay us anyways, so why not just pay the extra and hire somebody down there, offer a little more money or whatever, and get somebody there. Then they're there, and the people can talk to them, and that city council can talk to that person. And
Yeah.
otherwise, we have to go from their city council to our city council to our public works, and
We are concerned, that's been a concern that we brought up, is how that
Who's the boss?
information would flow. And we've shared our thoughts on that, but
I think it's worth them, you guys talking a little bit about it, but, I think that you've kind of heard straw polls.
There's a lot of what
trepidation.
ifs.
I know, I've been thinking about it
Got our own-
since it came up, and
But
we were actually asked 2 months ago or a month ago just about the utilities. But we were not willing to entertain that at that time, just because the scope of work didn't. If we're gonna do the utilities, we're gonna do them.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go down and sign paperwork, just to sign paperwork.
we can't do that, because that's our,
That's our,
Yeah,
that,
that's
well,
us.
personally, it's the employees.
yeah.
What are you thinking, Jeff?
I'm thinking it's probably worth talking about, but, like I said, we don't wanna reduce the effectiveness of our department in Wabasha, And do you have any idea what's the shape of their infrastructure down there in Kellogg? Is it comparable to Wabasha, worse or better, or?
I've drove through the town a few times. I knew that was gonna happen. But I'd have to go down and take a look. I know they're having a lot of street work done. I know that I've heard the sewer was all PVC, fairly new. I don't know if that's true.
It is.
It's less jetting than what we normally would have to do. New water tower. That's about all I know. The guys that work down there got very good records. Gary, their water and sewer guy, he's on top. He's probably got 10 copies of each record. He's very good. So
It's different though too, Jeff. A lot of their streets are a lot narrower
curb.
than ours, and no curbing, and
yeah.
that creates different viewpoints on things right off the bat, as if you take a plow down a narrower street, one driveway is gonna get 2/3 of the snow. And you deal with that going back and forth too, so.
And they are, at the same time, they're putting ads out for people. And I gave them copies of our job descriptions, our interview question that I'd come down and help. I told them that I'd rather see them hire somebody.
Yeah.
If it works out for them, that'd be better, and I'd help them, It might take an hour or two for me to run down there one of these days or something to sit with their group, but that's going on too, so it's not all our eggs in one basket, so.
Brian, you've got good ideas. What are you thinking?
I think that nobody knows more than you and you, first, if we can do it, and then second, if we want to do it. So I'd say if you guys and staff think that you can do it and you have the initiative that you want to do it, go for it and see what you can do. But if it's more of a headache and it's not something you want to take on, then I'd say let's not do it.
Brian, would you favor authorizing these two to study it
Yes.
and go as far as entering an agreement?
No, they can flesh it out, but it'll come back here before we enter into
Okay.
any kind of agreement.
Yeah.
All right. We okay with that?
Yeah, we should get some more talk is good, and find out exactly what they want.
I think that's the general consensus.
I mean, just alone, the mowing, you know, how many acres do they have? I have no clue. So I know they have a park,
Yeah, they got,
and a baseball field.
I mean, if you include all the mowing, it's most likely one day with a big tractor and then the small mower. Not a lot, you know, but
Their mower and tractor's new, but their road grader's shot.
yeah, that's our old road grader. And they did buy a new, or not a new, but they bought a used MnDOT plow, so they have a truck, a plow, a sander, and another small dump truck, and a zero-turn mower. You know, but who's gonna work on it? Who's gonna pay for parts? You know, there's a lot of laundry
Tony,
list.
I don't know anyone who looks better on camera than you, but we are going to move on.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, now don't run away though, because our next item is a motion to approve going out for a bid for the LED light conversion project for Main Street lights. A word or two about what that means in English?
This has been Tony's project, and
We don't need a motion for the Kellogg thing for us to work
no,
on, do we?
we can go with the.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we applied through Excel Energy for a rebate to do the lights on Pembroke. It's an outdoor lighting grant. It was fairly new at the time, and it was a good deal. Worked out great. So it took a year to get this one through, and I think it's a win-win. Like I was talking earlier, the whole project cost is estimated at $5,400, and then the pre-approved rebate that they will pay us is $2,337. If payout is 0.08 years, you know, to me that's a no-brainer. I mean, we're going to pay this off in 3/4 of a year, and then it's continued savings after that. So I kind of wanted to bring it before you because it was an oddball project that we don't do all the time, and the cost was over $5,000. And so I'm just looking for a go-ahead to
Get a bid.
get a bid. And do you want me to come back, or do you want me to? There's 2 electrical contractors in town that we would, Timish Electric and Passy Electric.
That's council.
Do you want me to bring a bid back, or since we're getting rebated for half of it, can I just get it done? Or
Moving to the LED lights is
Just
a
got it
good
done.
idea to save money and.
Just do it.
Maintenance.
This your not first rodeo, Tony, so.
right?
I don't think you have to come back. Anybody disagree? No. Okay, then a motion to approve going out for a bid.
So move.
Going off for bid, entering into one?
Yep.
What?
Yep, going out for bid and getting the project done.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second.
No, we got a first and a second.
Oh, do we?
First and a second.
They moved and
Sorry, I
seconded
wasn't
over
listening.
there.
Forgive me.
Third and fourth.
No problem. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passed unanimously. Let's go to item number 8 out of the consent agenda, and Jeff, will go back to you. You started with a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the number of the
Yes, sir.
typical increase in the
Yep.
homeowner's bill. That's all, so everybody
$1.50.
gets an idea. $1.50.
Yep.
Perfect. I think people can.
It breaks out to be 13 cents per thousand for water, and
The
then
base rate is
$1
gonna
for
be
the
a
base.
buck more than they were paying, so that's $1 that's gonna be there no matter what. And then you're looking at 10 cents a thousand, up to about 5,000 gallons, 6,000.
Okay.
So minimal.
Yep.
Okay, Jeff, how about making a motion to accept the proposed amendment to City Code 500 to raise water rates?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, passed unanimously. Okay, we done well there, we're moving right along. All our general business is done. Donations tonight. Dean, you haven't read donations for a while, can you,
I don't have them in front of me.
all right.
I can do it.
Chad, that'd be great.
The fire department for the Fire Relief Association for $5,500. The pool splash pad this was a big one, from Burkhart Raymer VFW Post 46 for $13,250. Friends of the Library to the Winter Reading Program for $128. Library Friends of the Library for 6 Appeal Vocal Band Concert for $125. Library RJAC for the Winter Reading Program for $200. Library from RJAC for the 6 Appeal Vocal Band Concert for $125. Library in memory of Hardy Shirts by Family and Friends for $200. Library Burkhart Raymer VFW Post 46 for blind shelving miscellaneous children's library items for another $13,250. The library in memory of Tom Ireland by Eleanor Groby for $20. And the library from John and Agatha Hubbard for $50.
Motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously, and thank you to all of the individuals, the businesses, and the groups that have made those contributions. Great thing about Wabasha. And Dean, motion to adjourn?
No, one quick
more thing.
announcement. The annual Board of Appeal and Equalization for the City of Wabasha is April 18th, 2018, from 6 to 6:30 at the Wabasha County Courthouse. And this is where people within the city limits will, if they want to discuss the valuation of their property. Do we know who's doing that, Sue?
Last year it was Friedmeier, Soa, and Woodley. So,
I'm just gonna put it out there, I'm gonna be iffy again this year, so,
We only need 3, right?
right. Thank you.
Don't look at me.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
now I'm gonna ask me.
There are training requirements for that. Have we all been through it?
Only one has to be trained.
Only,
Yes.
that's right.
Just have some real estate people in the audience
But we have more
that
than,
can help you out.
we have most people trained, so there's a few who aren't, but.
Trained or certified.
We were lucky enough to have John there and then several realtors that were there appealing. So we had a lot of help with valuation.
Good. You know,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Council.
You guys all have a good night.
Have a good one, folks.
Hey, you got it done in an hour.
Just beat it.
Just.